Cross Capital occupies 3 floors of the Columbia Center. I know this because Ethan told me, but knowing it and standing in the lobby watching the elevator numbers climb past 20, past 30, past the floors where normal offices live is not the same thing. The elevator requires a key card. Ethan holds it to the sensor without looking. The way I swipe my bus pass. Muscle memory. Something he does 15 times a day without thinking about who it keeps out. The receptionist knows I'm coming before I give my name. This is power. Thomas dropped me at the Columbia Center entrance at 9:45 a.m. Not the main lobby, a side entrance. Glass doors with no signage, tucked between a Starbucks and a dry cleaner. The kind of entrance that says, "We don't need you to find us." Ethan was waiting inside, not in the lobby. In the hallway before the lobby, the one with the security desk and the man whose name tag read Phillips and whose posture read former military. He was wearing a suit. I've never seen him in a suit. Dark navy, no tie, white shirt open at the collar. The jacket fits like it grew on him, not tailored to impress, tailored to disappear into his body so completely that you stop seeing the clothes and start seeing the person. The person looks like he runs things. He does run things. "Hi," he said. "Hi." That was it. No preamble, no, "Are you sure about this?" Just 2 people who decided something last night and are now standing in a hallway where it becomes real. His hand found the small of my back. Light. Guiding, not steering. The way you'd walk someone through an unfamiliar building because you know every corner of it. Because you built it. The 37th floor smelled like fresh paper and something sharper. Money, maybe. Or decisions. The doors opened directly into a reception area. Clean lines, smart glass walls that could go opaque with a button. Views of the entire city through windows that stretched from floor to ceiling. Seattle looked small from up here. Organized, like something someone designed instead of something that grew. A woman at the front desk stood when we stepped out. "Good morning, Mr. Cross." "Morning, Rachel. This is Aria." Rachel smiled at me the way you smile at someone you've been briefed about. Warm but measured. "Welcome, Ms. Chen." I wanted to correct her. Aria, not Ms. Chen. But I was in a building where people used last names and the windows cost more than my apartment lease, so I just said, "Thank you." Ethan kept walking. People noticed him, not the way customers notice a barista, not the half glance, the impatient eye contact check. This was different. A man in a gray vest looked up from his monitor and straightened his posture. A woman carrying a tablet angled her shoulders to give him room before she realized the hallway was wide enough for 4 people. 2 men at a glass conference table stopped talking mid-sentence, watched him pass, then leaned toward each other. Nobody spoke to him. Not because they didn't want to. Because the energy said not now. I've seen this energy. I've seen it at Grind Coffee when Janet catches me texting during a rush. I've seen it in the way traffic parts for ambulances. I've never seen it come from a person I've kissed. He walked like the building belonged to him. Because it did. Patricia intercepted us in the hall between the 37th and 38th floor stairwell. She came around a corner with a tablet in one hand, a coffee in the other, and the posture of someone who hasn't had a day she didn't control in 15 years. 50s. Sharp. Not sharp the way Maya is sharp, where the edge is in the humor. Sharp the way a scalpel is sharp. Every word selected from a lineup of 10 and found guilty of being the most efficient. "Mr. Cross." She looked at him, then at me, then back at him. "Patricia, this is Aria." She extended her hand, firm grip. 3 seconds. Eye contact that lasted 1 second longer than comfortable, and I think that was intentional. "I've heard a great deal about you." That's a polite way of saying you've read security reports about me. She almost smiled. The corners of her mouth moved a fraction of an inch. Those two. Ethan watched us. He was watching the way he watches me at the coffee shop, cataloging, except now he was cataloging whether two pieces of his life could exist in the same room. Patricia turned to him. Henderson wants to move the timeline up. He's pushing for Friday instead of next Tuesday. The sole deal needs your approval by end of business today, not tomorrow, and your 3 p.m. canceled, but your 4 p.m. is running early. She delivered this while walking. Ethan processed it while keeping one hand on my back, guiding me through a glass door that opened with his key card. Henderson can wait until Tuesday. The timeline is what it is. Soul, I'll review at lunch. Push 4 to 4:15 and hold my morning through 10:30. Done. 3 decisions. 4 seconds. No hesitation. Patricia peeled off down a corridor with glass walls, tablet already receiving new information. She didn't look back. I stared after her. That's what he sounds like, I said. Not to anyone. To the air. Ethan looked at me. What? On the phone, at the beach, in his car, that voice, the one I've been trying to understand for 2 months? I pointed down the corridor where Patricia had disappeared. That's what it sounds like when it's aimed at something that isn't me. He was quiet for a moment. Then, does it bother you? No. You hesitated. I didn't hesitate, I was organizing my answer. I looked at him. It doesn't bother me, it clarifies something. The man I've been dating and the man who just told Henderson to wait are the same person. They always were. I know. I just hadn't heard them in the same sentence before. His office was on the 38th floor. Not an office, really. A room where decisions happen. Glass walls on 3 sides, opaque at the moment. Dark wood desk with 3 monitors, and a leather chair that had been sat in enough to remember the shape of the person who built this place. The 4th wall was windows. All of Seattle. From this height, the water, the ferries, the mountains on clear days, which today wasn't, but the clouds sat low enough that the city looked like it was wearing a ceiling. He let me look, didn't explain, didn't narrate, just stood near his desk with his hands in his pockets and let me see the room where the blue blocks happen. 3 monitors. One showed market data that scrolled in real time, green and red numbers that refreshed every second. One had an email inbox with 847 unread messages. The third was dark. A conference table in the corner. Seats for 12. Water glasses already set. On his desk, a notepad in the precise, small handwriting I recognized from his apartment. The grocery list handwriting. The phone number handwriting. Except, this notepad had words like acquisition, liability exposure, and Henderson. Same handwriting, same hands, different universe. The meeting started at 10:15. Sit wherever you're comfortable, Ethan said. Or stand. Nobody will ask. I took a chair against the back wall, behind the conference table, out of the sightline, in the spot where the observer lives. The barista's spot. People filed in, 6 of them, 4 men, 2 women. All in suits or blazers, all carrying something, tablets or folders or coffee, all aware of exactly where Ethan was standing before they chose their seats. One of the women glanced at me, quick, professional, filed and moved on. Nobody asked who I was. They'd been told, or they'd decided it didn't matter. Either way, I was invisible. Good. Ethan took the head of the table. He didn't say anything, just sat down, opened a folder, looked up. The room reorganized itself around him. Not dramatically, not the way a movie boss walks in and everyone scrambles. Subtler than that. The energy shifted. Postures adjusted. One of the men closed his laptop. Another set down his phone. The woman with the tablet angled it toward Ethan as though he was the light source and she was the mirror. Where are we on Meridian's Q3 numbers? The discussion that followed lasted 45 minutes. I didn't understand most of it, not because the language was too complex, because the language was simple and the implications were massive. They talked about headcount and restructuring and managed risk the way I talk about oat milk inventory and pastry orders. Casually, with expertise, as though the 1,000 jobs sitting inside the spreadsheet on the third monitor were a resource to be optimized, a variable in an equation. Except Ethan didn't treat them that way. "What's the timeline on the workforce transition?" he asked. A man with silver hair and a blue tie answered. "If we move forward with the restructuring, we're looking at 300 positions affected. Most can be redeployed. Maybe 70 we can't place. Then we find a way to place them. The numbers don't support that, Ethan. Then we change the numbers." The room was quiet for 2 seconds. 70 people, Ethan said. Not positions, people, who have mortgages and commutes and kids who expect dinner at 6. Find a way. The silver-haired man wrote something down. Ethan moved on to the next item, like saving 70 jobs was not a grand gesture, like it was a baseline. I sat in my chair against the wall and watched the man I met at a coffee shop tell a room full of people in expensive suits that 70 strangers were more important than a spreadsheet. And they listened, not because he raised his voice, because he didn't have to. After the meeting, the office emptied in 90 seconds. People nodded at Ethan, collected their things, moved toward the door with the specific urgency of people who have 14 more things to do before lunch. The silver-haired man paused at the door, turned back. "We'll find the placements." "I know you will." The door closed. Ethan looked at me. "What did you think?" I was still in the observer's chair. My hands were folded in my lap. My coffee, which someone had delivered without me noticing, had gone cold. "You're different here," I said. His face shifted. "Bad different?" "Confident different, like you belong here." He almost smiled. Not the careful one, the real one, the one that starts in his jaw and takes a second to reach his eyes. "I built this," he said. "Of course I belong here." I heard it, not the sentence, the subtext. "I built this. This is the part of me that can't be faked or performed or simplified into a man who reads newspapers at a corner table. This is the thing I do that matters, the thing that makes the security worth it and the loneliness bearable and the performance of normalcy something I'm willing to maintain for the 2 hours a day when I get to be someone else." He didn't say any of that. He didn't have to. Lunch was in a private dining room on the 38th floor, not a cafeteria, not a break room, a dining room with a table that seated 8 and a window that faced Elliott Bay, and lunch that arrived on plates with portions designed for people who eat between meetings and leave when the phone rings. Ethan sat across from me. He'd loosened the top button of his shirt. First sign all day that something in him was unclenching. "Ask me," he said. "Ask you what?" "Whatever you've been organizing since the meeting." He knew. He always knew. He reads me the way he reads the room. Maybe better. "The 70 people," I said. "The ones the numbers don't support. How often do you do that?" "Do what?" "Override the math." He picked up his water, sipped, set it down. "The math isn't wrong. A leaner workforce would be more efficient. Stock price goes up. Investors are happy. I'd make more money. But efficient isn't the same as right. And I didn't build this to make efficient decisions. I built this to make good ones. That costs money. Everything costs money." He looked at me. "The question is what money buys that matters." I thought about the Meridian Systems article Maya found. 1,000 jobs saved because cross-capital blocked an acquisition. The unnamed analyst who said he evaluates consequences, not just returns. He wasn't performing ethics for me. This is what he does. This is who he is in the blue blocks. "The pension funds," I said. "You mentioned them at the apartment. Teachers, Firefighters. He nodded. Cross Capital manages retirement portfolios for 32 public employee pension funds across 6 states. If I make bad decisions, teachers don't get to retire. Firefighters lose their savings. That's the weight. And you carry that every day. Every day. How? He looked at me for a long time. Something that lives behind the careful expressions and the authority posture and the man who tips 20% because precision is a habit he can't turn off. Coffee helps, he said. I laughed. Actually laughed. In a private dining room on the 38th floor of a building I couldn't afford to park in. His eyes changed. Not the authority, not the boyfriend. Something I'd only seen in 5-second windows, through car windshields and lattice partitions. The real one. Looking at me like I was the thing that made the weight bearable. After lunch, he showed me the operation. Not a tour. An education. We walked through the 37th floor where Patricia's team worked. 12 people in an open floor plan, screens showing data that refreshed every 3 seconds, phones ringing in a rhythm that suggested a heartbeat. This is where the portfolio lives, Ethan said. Everything we own, everything we're considering, everything we've decided not to touch. A man named David waved from his desk. Young, maybe 30, headphones around his neck. The soul numbers are on your desk. Thank you, David. Ethan introduced me to 3 more people, brief, natural. This is Aria. Not my girlfriend, not someone important, just Aria. They shook my hand. 2 of them mentioned things Ethan had told them about me. One said he'd heard about grind coffee and the oat milk situation. Another asked if Sarah's latte art had improved. He talks about me here, in this building where people manage billions. He tells them about the barista who makes his coffee, about the woman in the white block. We passed a wall of glass whiteboards covered in deal structures, arrows and numbers and company names I recognized. A healthcare company I've seen in the news. A logistics firm whose trucks I've noticed on the highway. Is that the one from the article? I asked, pointing at a name. The acquisition you blocked? Meridian, yes. The one that saved 1,000 jobs. The one that changed the terms of the conversation, he said. The jobs were the result. The point was demonstrating that we don't accept outcomes we don't agree with. I looked at him. That sentence applied to his personal life. To the way he chose me, tested whether I'd like him without the context, controlled every piece of information for 9 weeks. We don't accept outcomes we don't agree with. He builds worlds he can control, companies, relationships, everything. The 36th floor was legal, quieter, heavier energy. People here carried folders that looked like they weighed something, and not just physically. Ethan didn't linger. Legal handles compliance, regulatory, and anything that could become a headline. He said, Has anything become a headline? Twice. Both times we were right. Once it took 2 years to prove it. He said, we, the way a captain says we about a ship, not false modesty, not deflection. Just the honest acknowledgement that 212 people make the thing work, even though one person built it. A woman in the hallway stopped. Mr. Cross, quick question about the Morrison filing. His face didn't change, but something behind it did. Send it to Patricia, she'll route it. The woman nodded, looked at me, back at him, walked away. Morrison. The name sat between us. He didn't explain. I didn't ask. Because the hallway was 30 feet long and made of glass, and whatever Morrison means, it was heavy enough that his jaw clenched. The one I've been tracking since trivia night. We took the stairwell back to 38. He held the door. I went first. Our footsteps echoed against concrete in a building full of glass. "How many people work here?" I asked. 212, plus consultants. "How many of them know about me?" He looked at me as we climbed. "Most of them, not from an announcement, from Patricia, and from me leaving at 7:30 3 nights a week instead of 9. They noticed. People notice when the person who built the company starts acting like he has somewhere else to be. I thought about the calendar, the white block, 2 hours out of 16. "Is that why your 4 p.m. was running early?" I said. "People adjust their schedules because you leave earlier?" "They adjust because they're good at their jobs. The leaving early part is a data point they factor in." That's a very diplomatic way of saying yes. He almost smiled. The real one. At 2:30 p.m., Patricia found us on the 38th floor. Ethan was showing me the view from the north side, Cascade Range on clear days. Today, clouds. But the city stretched below us in a way that made everything I'd been worried about, the blog post, the DMs, the strangers at the coffee shop, look proportionally smaller, not less real, just smaller. Patricia stopped in the doorway, tablet in hand, expression controlled. "Mr. Cross." He turned from the window. I watched his eyes shift. Not a big shift. The kind you'd miss if you hadn't spent 10 weeks learning the geography of his face. "There's been a development with the Morrison situation." Morrison again. His jaw tightened. That familiar clench, except this time it wasn't subtle. This time it held. Patricia glanced at me, then back at him. The kind we should discuss privately. There it was. The line. The wall between the white blocks and the red ones. Ethan looked at me. Calculating. Include me or protect me? The old instinct pulling one way. The new promise pulling another. I met his eyes. "Whatever it is," I said, "I want to know." He studied my face for 5 seconds. The same 5 seconds I've seen before, the ones where he decides. Then, to Patricia, "She's cleared for everything now. Everything, like I just got security clearance for his entire life." Patricia's expression didn't change, but her posture did. Something in her shoulders loosened by a fraction. She looked at me. A different look now. Not the measuring look from the hallway. Not the professional acknowledgement. Something closer to recognition. Like she'd been waiting for this. Like she'd been watching Ethan manage 2 lives and knew, eventually, someone would either break the wall or break him. "The Morrison filing," Patricia said, looking at her tablet. "Charles Morrison has escalated from legal pressure to personal. He's retained a private investigator. They've been asking questions about your routine, your security protocols, and your personal relationships." She looked up from the tablet, at me. "Your name came up in their inquiries. They know who you are. They know where you work." The room was very quiet. I thought about the man in the wool overcoat at Grind Coffee, the one who asked if this was where Ethan Cross gets his morning coffee. Who looked around the shop like he was cataloging the space. Who left without drinking his coffee. "That wasn't a gossip blog reader," I said. Patricia and Ethan looked at me. "The man at the coffee shop this morning, wool overcoat. He wasn't curious. He was collecting information." Patricia checked her tablet. Typed something. "We'll review the security footage. Marcus may have already flagged him." I looked at Ethan. His hands were flat on the conference table. The same position from last night at the kitchen island, when his grandmother's kitchen and his $8 billion calendar sat 3 inches apart. Except now the distance was gone. There was no kitchen, no pasta, no wobbly stool. Just a conference room where someone was investigating me because of who I'm sleeping next to. "Who is Charles Morrison?" I asked. Ethan's voice was flat, the authority voice, but underneath it, tight. He ran a company Cross Capital acquired 18 months ago. We restructured, removed him as CEO. The board agreed, the shareholders agreed, the courts agreed. Morrison didn't agree. Patricia added. No, Ethan said. Morrison didn't agree. And now he's investigating you. He's been making threats for 6 months, harassing calls to the office, letters to the board, legal filings that get dismissed. His jaw did the thing again. Tighter this time. He's running out of institutional options. Ethan paused. When people like Morrison run out of institutional options, they get personal. Personal, meaning me. Meaning my name in an investigator's file. My workplace. My schedule. My apartment with the ceiling crack and Maya's white noise machine and the jasmine tea I bought because a man I met at a coffee shop keeps it on his counter. How personal, I said. Patricia answered. He wants leverage. Anything that could embarrass Cross Capital publicly or force a settlement. And I'm leverage. You're a data point he's collecting, Patricia said. Whether you become leverage depends on what he finds and what he's willing to do with it. Data point. I've been a data point since the beginning, in Ethan's security reports, in Maya's research, in a gossip blog's 3 paragraphs, now in a private investigator's file. I looked at Ethan. He was watching me the way he watched me at the restaurant on Tuesday, waiting for the performance, for the tears, for the retreat. Okay, I said. Okay? Okay, as in I heard you. I'm processing. Give me a minute. I looked out the window. Seattle, 40 floors below, cars moving, people buying coffee, someone walking a dog near the waterfront, normal people doing normal things in a city where the man sitting across from me makes decisions that ripple through everything. And somewhere in that city, someone with a notepad and a purpose was looking for me. What do we do? I asked. Not what do you do? We. Ethan's hands relaxed on the table. I don't think he noticed, but I did. Patricia's team handles Morrison through legal channels. He said, Marcus adjusts your security profile. We increase monitoring around the shop and your apartment. Monitoring. I know how that sounds. It sounds like Tuesday, like the beach, like I'm careful about my safety. I met his eyes. Except now I understand why. Patricia was standing very still, watching us. She's been watching him bring women into this world before. She's seen this exact moment. The moment the reality of being near Ethan Cross stops being romantic and starts being operational, and she's watching to see if I'll be different. I have a question, I said, to Patricia. She tilted her head, barely. Of course. How many times have you had this conversation about a woman in his life becoming a security concern? Silence. Ethan looked at the table. Patricia looked at me. Steady, professional, but something behind the professional. Twice before, she said. Neither time went well. For the women. For anyone. I nodded, filed it. I'm not going to ask about them right now, I said. But I'm going to ask eventually. I would expect nothing less. She said it without warmth, without cold, with the precise neutrality of someone who has decided to respect me. That felt more valuable than warmth. Ethan walked me to the lobby at 3:15 p.m. The suit looked different on him now, not like armor, like skin. He pressed the elevator button. We stood in the hallway between the glass walls and the views of a city that looked like a circuit board from up here. All connections, all systems, everything touching everything else. Are you okay? He asked. No. He waited. I watched you run a meeting where you saved 70 jobs and then found out someone is investigating me because you fired their boss 18 months ago. I looked at him. I'm not okay. I'm recalibrating. What does recalibrating look like? It looks like me going home and sitting on my couch and drinking jasmine tea and trying to figure out what it means that I spent the morning falling more in love with you and the afternoon learning that loving you comes with a threat file. He went still. I replayed what I said. Falling more in love with you. I hadn't planned to say that. It just came out. Between the fear and the fluorescent lights and the elevator that was taking too long to arrive. Aria, don't make it a thing. It is a thing. I know it's a thing. I just said a very large thing in a very small hallway, and I need the elevator to arrive before I process what I said. The elevator chimed. The doors opened. He reached for my hand, held it. His thumb traced a circle on my wrist. The same gesture from Vento, weeks ago, when I didn't know what it meant. Now I know what it means. "I'll see you tonight," he said. "Yes. Be careful." Marcus is downstairs. Thomas is in the car. Patricia is monitoring my digital presence. I think careful is covered. He almost smiled. Then the elevator closed, and I was alone with the hum of cables and the fact that I'd told a man worth $500 million that I was falling in love with him in a hallway between a conference room and a security briefing. Thomas was waiting at the curb. I got in. My phone buzzed. "Ethan." For the record, me too. 3 words. From a man who built an empire with precision and control and patience and who could have said anything. Who chose 3 words. I set my phone face down on my thigh. The way he does. The way I do now. Thomas drove. I watched the Columbia Center shrink in the rearview mirror. 40 floors of glass and decisions. 3 floors that belong to the man I met at a coffee shop. 212 people who adjust their schedules because he leaves at 7:30 to make pasta for a barista. And somewhere in one of those buildings, someone with a file knows my name. The city moved around me. I moved through it. Different now. Not mystery woman. Not the white block. Not a data point. Cleared for everything. Whatever that means. Whatever it costs.